Stone.
Happy to have you join me today on the Manifest Telecast. Bill Cloud is with me, and we're going to be, again, talking to you about America, and we're going to delve into this aspect in this program of the idea of how curses that were established in the Old Testament are now being activated in the United States. And we've built the foundation. I hope you caught the past two programs. We've laid a foundation out for this. But one of the things, Bill, that we're going to do is we're going to talk about how Israel and America are connected spiritually. People have often said, is America in prophecy? Well, you can't find it directly, but you can find it by patterns. And Bill, I've got some notes here if you want to go through those. How is Israel and America paralleled by the patterns of both nations, the ancient nation and America? Go through some of these, and there's probably some more you could add, by the way.
Well, I was just going to say that just right off the top of my head, you already mentioned, I think, that 1607, was the first permanent English colony. Of course, that's 400 years. There's a pattern there. By the way,
May 14th.
I was about to say May 14th is when 144 men actually established what was Jamestown. Of course, James is just the English version of Jacob. So we could say it's Jacobstown. So,
and Israel is reestablished on May 14th, 1948. 144,000 Jewish men in the book of Revelation.
Right.
And that's just one oddity.
That's just
one oddity.
The shot heard around the world, fired on April 19th, 1775, was during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Of course, that's tied to Passover. They had to eat the Passover in Egypt with their loins girded, their shoes on their feet, their staff in their hand, because they had to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And of course, who are the men who fired the shot heard around the world? We called them Minutemen. And so there's all these parallels. David was king for 40 years. Solomon followed him, and he was king for 40 years. And after Solomon's death and Rehoboam becomes king, the nation divided into North and South. In 1781, for all practical purposes, the American Revolution ended. America was secured a place among the nations. If you go from 1781, counting forward 80 years, corresponding to David's reign and Solomon's reign, you come to 1861. What happened in 1861? The nation divided into North and South, and on and on and on and on.
And then also, Israel had 13 tribes. America originally had 13 colonies.
Right.
We discovered that Israel was originally ruled by kings, and America in its early founding, before the Revolution, was controlled by a king, the kings of England and Britain, divided between the North and the South. Israel's laws, as found on the Torah, are actual laws that America is based on, are found in the Scripture, Judeo-Christian,
I think, Perry,
going.
that if anyone who really studies American history, they can't do that and come away thinking that America was just some accidental thing, or it was based on American ingenuity or, good old American know-how.
Right.
If you study American history, you have to come away thinking that the sovereign God of the universe raised this nation up, but He patterned it after things that we find in ancient Israel.
Absolutely.
May I read
Absolutely.
a quote here from one of our past presidents? This is from Theodore Roosevelt. He said this: "The teachings of the Bible are so interwoven and entwined with our whole civic and social life that it would be literally, I do not mean figuratively, I mean literally, impossible for us to figure to ourselves what life would be if these teachings were removed." And so that's just one of many quotes of our forefathers who said, the God of the Bible is the one who raised up this nation with those patterns, but, and I think this is where we're going, also with the responsibility that He gave to ancient Israel.
Now, one thing I want to do right now is I'm going to show you how in the ancient tabernacle of Moses, the tabernacle was a large rectangle, and if we start from the east, we're going to show you, we'll show you a picture of the sacred furniture. The first piece of furniture is the brass altar, and the main substance was fire on the altar. You go forward and you're going to come to the brass laver, and the main substance was water. Now when you come into the holy place, to the south is the 7-branch candlestick whose main substance was oil. If you go directly north of the candlestick in the tabernacle, you'll discover the table of shewbread with 12 types of bread. The main thing used to make the bread were grains. Then if you go forward in the center of the tabernacle in the holy place, you'll discover the altar of incense. And the main substance there had to be coals that were used and the incense used on the altar. Then there was this great veil just past the golden altar, and then you would come into the Holy of Holies. Into one piece of furniture was located there. It was the Ark of the Covenant of solid gold. Now, I have a map, you'll see it, but if you take a map of the United States and you see we're going to make it a complete rectangle here, and you lay out the tabernacle furniture in a map of the United States and start at the east, here's what gets interesting. It tells you the history of those states as it relates in a connection to the tabernacle furniture. For example, the altar, or the brass altar on the outside, has 3 fires on it. And this represents the early revivals in America that came into Murphy, North Carolina, that came into Kentucky, and came into Tennessee. And those were the states, if you'll check our early history, where the great fire of revival occurred. Then if you go from the altar and you go forward, you're going to come to the Mississippi River where the laver would sit. And that's called the waterway of America, and the main substance was water in the laver. If you continue to go, this is exactly the way the tabernacle furniture would be laid out in the tabernacle. You come into the holy place and you discover the menorah, and it has 7 branches on it, and you have to have oil. Texas has 7 major areas, 7 major counties, huge counties, provinces is a better way of saying it. And the main substance with Oklahoma and Texas is oil. All right, that's how they've made their money. Go directly north, you come to the breadbasket of America, which is the Dakotas, Nebraska, etc., and that's exactly where the table of shewbread would be. And a matter of fact, there's 12 different kinds of bread, and you can find there's at least 12 states that have agriculture connected very heavy to the United States. Interesting. Then Colorado would be where the golden altar is. Of course, that's where the smoke was. I don't want to get into the negative side of that. We can make a joke there, but I'm not going to do that. But anyway, the Colorado River was called the Red River. The incense was red in color. All right. Well, look at this. On a satellite map, you find the Continental Divide. That would be your veil. And how was California founded? By the gold rush, and gold and the Ark of the Covenant, everything on it was gold, including a solid mercy seat. Now, this is interesting because it reveals to you how God raised up America, and the states where certain events happened, or the main substance that helped make that state wealthy, is connected to a substance that was on the tabernacle furniture that would fit there. Now, is that a coincidence? If it is, it's a very odd one, all right? Now, here's where it gets also interesting. If you take the 12 tribes of Israel and you put them in the camp in the time of Moses around the tabernacle, you discover that there was 3 tribes to the north, 3 to the south, 3 to the east, and 3 to the west. However, there was a leading tribe in the north. The leading tribe in the north is Dan. The leading tribe to the south was Reuben. The leading tribe to the east was Judah. And the leading tribe to the west was Manasseh. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold up a picture here, and I'm going to show you on this picture how this would work. All right, here we go. Here is the encampment of Israel. Here's the tabernacle itself in the middle. And then you've got 3 tribes, north, south, east, and west. And once again, the head tribe by numbers is Dan to the north. Dan's emblem early was an eagle. Then you have the tribe of Judah to the east. Their tribal emblem was the lion. You have Reuben to the south, and Reuben's emblem was actually a man. Then you have, which is very interesting, on this side, which is the west side of the tabernacle, the head tribe was Manasseh, or we would say Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh on this side. Now, watch carefully what happens when I overlay the tabernacle area with the 4 main federal buildings in Washington, D.C., because the Washington Mall is a large rectangle. You've been there and I've been there. It's very large, okay? But there's 4 federal buildings, and I'm going to show you the federal building and an emblem that represents them, all right? And we actually have one of these that has the emblem on it. This one doesn't, but the emblem is with it, all right? In the Washington Mall, in the square of the rectangle of the mall, to the north is the White House, whose emblem is the eagle. The president cannot speak without the emblem of the eagle at a pulpit. Over here on the right side, or a podium, I should say, not a pulpit. Over here on the right side is the Capitol building. The lawgiver is the lion. In the book of Genesis, Judah is the lawgiver. Our lawgivers are symbolic of the lions, all right? And there's actually lions outside.
There's a fountain out there.
A fountain.
That's got lions on the 4 corners.
That's right, a fountain that has the lions on the 4 corners. Jefferson is the humanist. Now he was a deist. He believed there was people say he was an atheist. No, he wasn't. He believed there was a God, but he did believe that God left the affairs of men.
Right.
So that's the difference. But he was be represented by the man. The really odd one is over here. This is the Lincoln Memorial. All right, now the Lincoln Memorial on this end is interesting because the battle, and we do have, by the way, our set, if you've noticed our set, we have a lot of early American stuff on the set only because, no particular reason, then we're doing a study on the history of America, okay? But the Battle of Bull Run, now remember, what's the emblem of Manasseh? A bull.
It's the bull.
The Bull Run was the battle that started the Civil War in the area of Manassas, which is a form of Manasseh or the tribe of Manasseh.
Well, actually, the North called it the Battle of Bull Run. The South called it the Battle of Manassas, which is the Greek transliteration of Manasseh.
And that is the emblem. And in Lincoln, and now if all this was switched, none of it would work.
We need to point out, too, that here, Perry, in this area, corresponding to where the tabernacle was, that's where the Washington Monument stands.
Yeah.
Of course, that's dedicated to the father of our country.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was originally going to be a temple-like structure.
Most people don't know that, but in the beginning, they were going to build a large temple there, which really would have made this even more bizarre because you'd have had the tabernacle picture of the tabernacle facility on the mall with the emblems. Now, some people say, well, somebody probably pre-planned that to be that way. Well, they did. They went through a lot of detail to pre-plan it that way. Now, here's my point. We have patterns of ancient